Hey there, out there, ho, there's Joe Cutter Diamond. Welcome you to another title bout championship boxing thing. This is going to be kind of an awkward one because I was actually set to do nation's title card, and Romania was on my mind. That keep putting Romania off to the side. So so that was my plan for today. March 22nd would be to do Romania for the fight card. Unfortunately, real life has intervened, and I will show you why. Not that guy, but that guy. You see here, George Foreman, January 10th, 1949 to March 21st, 2025, is a pro boxer, businessman, minister, and author. He's known as Big George, taking part in boxing between 67 and 97. He was known for the George Foreman Grill, a two-time world champion and an Olympic gold medalist. He won the heavyweight title in 1968 at the Summer Olympics in Mexico. Of course, that was the one that saw John Carlos and Tommy Smith do the Black Fist salute and all that. He would turn professional the next year, winning the world heavyweight title over Joe Frazier, and then would suffer a loss to Muhammad Ali in the famous Rumble in the Jungle. And then he lost in 1977 to Jimmy Young. But then he became an ordained Christian minister, and somehow, in some way, 10 years later, he would actually announce a comeback, and in '94, winning the heavyweight belts from Michael Moore. Foreman would relinquish the WBA belt and relinquish the IBF belt and all that. He was the oldest world heavyweight champion in history at 46 years and 169 days old. To put that in context, I'm not even 40 yet. Anyway, he would retire in 1997 with 76 wins and 5 losses. So anyway, Foreman has had so many events and all that. So anyway, he was born in Marshall, Texas in 1949, grew up in Houston, Texas with 6 siblings. George was a troubled youth and would spend time as a mugger. He actually had a change of heart at age 16, went to the Job Corps, getting a GED and become a carpenter and a bricklayer. He he decided to do boxing. And in 1968, in the Summer Olympics, he was put in the heavyweight division in Mexico. In the round of 16, he took on Poland's Lucian Trelia, beat him. And in the quarterfinals against Ion Alexei, he got the referee to stop the thing. In the semifinal, he beat Giorgio Bambini by knockout. And Jonas Sipoulis, sorry, was it? But he had to stop the fight and all that. So Foreman carried the small U.S. flag and bowed to the ground. All that. So he had a decent amateur record. And then he would turn professional in 1969 and would knock out Donald Wilhelm in New York City. Won 13 fights in 1969, 11 by knockout. He would win all 12 of his matches in 1970, including a match with Giorgio Peralta from Argentina, who had decisions in Madison Square Garden. Foreman would TKO George Chuvalo in 3 rounds, of course, to my chagrin, Chuvalo being Canadian. And doing all that, it became number 7 by 1971 for the heavyweight thing. And after finishing off 1971, he was 32-0 with 29 knockouts. He was named the #1 challenger by the WBA and the UBC. Foreman was going to face Joe Frazier in 1972 for the belt. Anyway, Foreman would face Frazier, but that would wait till January 22nd, 1973, in what they call the Sunshine Showdown in Kingston, Jamaica. It looked a little awkward. Foreman would dominate the fight, knocking down Frazier time after time. Right. Unfortunately, the 3 knockdown rule was not in effect, so that meant that Frazier still would fight. Frazier was knocked down 6 times in 2 rounds. Frazier was 29-0, and Foreman was 37-0. And for that fight to end in the second round was just shocking and all of that. Frazier got to his feet for all six knockdowns, but Artur Moncante, the referee, had to stop the fight. Everyone thought Foreman was an aloof and antisocial champion, and Foreman said he was actually emulating his sparring partner, Sonny Liston, who was a heavyweight champion of the world and all that. His first defense in Tokyo was against Puerto Rican Jose Roman, and the Foreman ended the fight in 2 minutes. Then he would face Ken Norton, known as Black Hercules in some circles, in Caracas, Venezuela, known for his heavy punch and cross arm defense. Anyway, it was just amazing like that. But Ken Norton was wobbled in the second round. Foreman would then face Muhammad Ali in what they call the Rumble of the Jungle in Kinshasa, Zaire, October 30th, 1974. Of course, there was training in September. Foreman, the thing had to be pushed back a little bit because Foreman suffered a cut above his right eye. All that. He couldn't spar in the build-up and that's the cut being reopened and all that. And Foreman even said that Ali that was the best thing possible because Foreman had to fight without being able to box. Ali would use this time to tour Zaire and taunt Foreman. Foreman was favored, having crushed undefeated heavyweight champion Joe Frazier and Ken Norton both within 2 rounds. When Foreman and Ali met in the ring, Ali was very aggressive, and of course the rope-a-dope strategy and all that. And Ali did his job and all that. Take down Foreman in the 8th round, and just wasn't there. Ali actually led on the scorecards anyway. Foreman said it just wasn't my night. He was unable to get a rematch with Ali for some dumb reason. Foreman had to face match people like Chuck Webner, Richard Dunn, Jean-Pierre Koopman, and Alfredo Evangelista. Ali would have to take on Ron Lyle, Joe Frazier, and Ken Norton, the only two men just beating him up until that time. So, anyway, Foreman would have an exhibition match in that it was called Foreman versus 5. He would fight 5 contenders in one night. It was to re-spark interest in Foreman. Unfortunately, Muhammad Ali was ringside with Harry Cosell commentating and all that. Things were just unbelievable. Actually, Foreman did defeat his first 3 guys, but because he was enraged and exhausted by Ali, he lost to 2 opponents. Of course, that didn't count for in standings. I wish we knew who the 5 guys were and what became of them. Anyway, Foreman versus Lyle happened. He would face Ron Lyle and all of that. Foreman KO'd Lyle in what they called the Fight of the Year in 1976. Then Foreman would face Frazier in a rematch. And all of that. So anyway, Foreman was took down Frazier in the 5th round and the fight was stopped. Foreman would face Jimmy Young in a match in Puerto Rico. Unfortunately, though, well, he ended up losing the fight to Jimmy Young by decision. But he became ill in his dressing room after the fight. He was suffering from exhaustion and heat stroke and figured he had a near-death experience. He felt in the midst of death. He wasn't religious. He began to plead with God to help explain that he sensed God asking him to change his life and ways. But he said, I don't care if this is death. I still believe there's a God. He became a born-again Christian, dedicating his life for the next decade to God. He would actually stop fighting even though he didn't retire. He became an ordained minister, becoming a minister of the Church of the Lord Jesus Christ in Houston and devoting himself to his family and congregation. and opened a youth center that bears his name. Foreman would shock everyone after 10 years away from the ring, and at 38, he would make a comeback. His primary motive was to raise money to fund the youth center he had created because, you know, everyone ran money. And he wanted to fight Mike Tyson. For his first fight, he would face Steve Stowski by knockout. Foreman would be up to 267 pounds for this match. He would slim down and all that. He even beat Dwight Quay in 1988. He knew what he could do. Foreman decided to sell his name and face for the advertising products such as the George Foreman Grill and all of that. His public persona improved considerably and all of that. Foreman would take on Jerry Cooney in 1990 and KO Cooney. Then he would be given a chance to challenge Evander Holyfield for the heavyweight belt. A lot of people thought Foreman was done for. The bad news was Foreman lost, but the good news was that Foreman actually lasted the 12 rounds and lost by decision instead of KO. He would face um, Tommy Morrison for the WBO belt, but Morrison beat him. But strange as it sounds, Foreman was set to face Michael Moore for the heavyweight championship and all that. So Foreman was unranked. But because of his high profile, Moore took the shot. So it was in Las Vegas, November 5th, 1994. Foreman would wear the same red trunks he wore in his match against Ali in 1974. Foreman was a substantial underdog. Foreman was actually trailing on all the scorecards. And then on the 10th round, he hit Moore with a number of punches. Then a short right hand cut Moore on the tip of his chin, gashing open his bottom lip. And he collapsed to the canvas. He lay flat. And the official and the play-by-play people were like, "It happened! It happened!" And Foreman defeated Michael Moore, and he was the heavyweight champion of the world. With this victory, he broke three records. He was the oldest fighter to win a world championship at age 45. Wow. He broke the record for the fighter with the longest interval between his first and second world championships because that was 20 years. And the age difference of 19 years between the champion and challenger was the largest of any heavyweight belt. So Foreman did his job, all that. By 1998, he decided to retire. He actually wanted to fight Larry Holmes on pay-per-view in 1999. But negotiations fell through and the fight was canceled. But he became a boxing analyst for HBO and all that. And for his ministerial career and all that, that basically went to God and all that. He was married to Mary Joan Manley in 1980, from 1985 till his death. He had four previous marriages. He had 12 children, having five sons named George. George Jr., George III, known as Monk, George IV is Big Wheel, George V, known as Red, and George VI, led by little Joey. He said he named all his sons George Edward Foreman because if one of us goes up, then we go up together. If one goes down, we all go down together. George IV actually was on a reality show, American Grit, placing his seven daughters are Natalia, Leola, Frida, Mishi, Georgetta, Isabella, and Courtney. Oh, that Frida was a 5-1 pro boxer and died of a suicide in 2019. And she was even mentioned in the King of the Hill episode, too. So, anyway, he died at Houston, age 76. As of right now, we don't know what the cause of it was. He had the George Foreman Grill, and he was 76 and 5. His last fight was at 48 years, 316 days old when he lost to Shannon Briggs. So, yeah. When he was 39 years, 353 days, kind of close to where I am now, he beat David Jaco December 1988 in Bakersfield. So yeah, he had such a great record. Yeah, those 5 fights. That was in Toronto? I did not know that. The Foreman versus 5 was in Toronto? I did not know that. Yeah, the X-Men. He beat Alonzo Johnson, Jerry Judge, Terry Daniels, then Charlie Paulette and Boone Kirkman. Made him so mad he lost focus. Huh, interesting. So yeah, so he won 2 WBA heavyweight belts, the WBC and the IBF championship, and minor. Yeah, King of the Hill. That's right. Boxing Luan. And Luan becomes a boxer, but Buck Strickland pays people to lose to her. He was in Home Improvement. I remember that. He was in that show George. And even was the Masked Singer in 2022. Cool. So anyway, that's George Foreman in a nutshell. Now, because of the time of me talking about it, what was going to go down was I was going to do a 6 fight card with Ali Foreman from the Astrodome being the main event. But because I talked at length about George's career in 16 minutes, I've decided to say that, yeah, my plan was to have all these, because in 1974, when Foreman was at his peak, I have photos from 1974 and all that. So we're going to kind of see, because I want you to know about the fighters involved in this fight card from Houston. Ken Norton, the heavyweight against the junior welterweight Sal Mombi, comes into play. Michael Buffer, the announcer. Shayna Marie, the ring card girl. Mike Ortega being the referee for this one. Albert Walensky, Barbara Perez, and Leichen Ogmar, your judges. Don Cost, your ringside expert. So Ken Norton, known as Black Hercules, like I said, born in Illinois, hometown of San Diego. 6'3", 215 for this fight. 42-7-1. I thought he won one of those belts. Then Mombi from the Bronx. 5'9.5". 45, 33, and 6. The WBC lightweight champion. So this is what would have happened. Ken Norton, Ken Norton beat Mombi by unanimous decision. It was a close one. But yeah, Ken Norton wins by unanimous decision. And knocked down Mombi and forced him with a cut. So the scorecards are like that. Mombi did win a few rounds near the end, but Norton had it in the bag. See. Next fight, the flyweight Miguel Canto versus junior lightweight Alexis Aguero. Frank Shane, the announcer. Amber Mill, the ring card girl. Mike Ortega, back to me, referee. Ruben Garcia, Crystal Wright, and Emil Conforti, your judges. Don Cost, your ringside expert. Miguel Canto from Mexico, El Maestro. They call him the Maestro from Merida in the Yucatan Peninsula. 5'1", 112. 61, 9, and 4. WBC flyweight champion. And you can see all of his stuff. He lost to Chang Hee Park in a U.S. decision. 14 consecutive defenses set a division record. And Aguero, El Flaco explosive flavor, I think it was, from Nicaragua, Manigua, by the way. 5'10", 138. Yeah, 5'10", 130. 77 and 8. The WBC lightweight champion, the WBC super featherweight, and the WBA featherweight champion. And then in that fight, there was a majority draw. Canto was the only one to have a fight, but a majority draw. Canto and Aguero. Canto had the punching accuracy, 63%. I think he won. Scorecards, Canto would have been Aguero by the 3-round combined. Well, Wright put 10-9 for Canto over Aguero. Obviously, if the other two went 10-9 in the 9th round for Canto, that would have been it for Canto. I think that was all of it, right? I think that was the only difference. That was the only difference, that 9th round when Wright scored for Canto. Because they both also went for Canto. Anyway, draw. Third fight was Joe Frazier, the heavyweight, against the welterweight Emil Griffith. Libby Contreras, the announcer. Jose Blocks, your ring card girl. Josie, sorry. Paul Thomas, your referee. Moon Moo Hong, Bruce McTavish, and Carol Castillo, your judges. Miracle Mirza, your ring card. Joe Frazier, known as Smoking Joe. 1944 2011, 5'11 and 209 pounds for this one. 32 4 and 1. He was the WBC and WBA heavyweight champion, and you know his great story. And of course, Foreman putting Frazier down on the canvas 6 times. Emil Griffith from the Virgin Islands went to New York, 5'7, 155 pounds, 85 24 and 2. Lots of welterweight championships and all that. Of course, everyone knows about Emil Griffith and his fight with Benny Paret in 1962. That televised beating of Paret, in which Paret died 10 days later from his coma, and Griffith had guilt, and then he finally met Paret's son in 2005, and they embraced. Joe Frazier proved why he was Joe Frazier. TKO'd Emil Griffith, so Frazier won that one. A couple of knockdowns, and Griffith couldn't do it. So the show cards, yeah, he had Griffith beaten. Well, McTavish and Moon gave him the Griffith the 8th round. Castellano gave Griffith the 1st round, but yeah, in the end, Frazier would have had Griffith for lunch. McTavish from New Zealand, okay. And then Larry Holmes, the heavyweight, against the middleweight Marvin Hagler, because these two were active in 1974. So Ed Durian, the announcer, Doris Cabrera, your ring card girl, Dick Flaherty, your referee, Joe Pasquale, Franz Marty, and Stanley Christopoulos, your judges, Mike Hansen, the ringside expert. Larry Holmes, the Eastern Assassin, 6'3", 235 pounds, 69 and 6. Pair of heavyweight belts. Marvin Hagler from Brockton, 5'9", 162. 62, 3 and 2. The WBC middleweight, WBA middleweight, IBF middleweight. Inducted to the Hall of Fame. He retired early and became a movie star, being legends like John Mugabe, Thomas Hearns, Roberto Duran, Alan Minter. That fight when he won the middleweight belt was like the British crowd was just unruly. And Kevin Finnegan. Yeah, I want to get you out of here as fast as possible. And that one was a majority decision. 2 out of 3 went for Holmes. Pasquale went tie. The Swiss and the South African judges went for Holmes. No knockdowns and all that. Scorecards were Holmes over Hagler. One major difference was Pasquale scoring 10-9 for Holmes instead of Hagler. If he had did that, yeah, it would have been a majority decision. But yeah, it was kind of where it's going. Yeah, Marty and Christopoulos only gave 8 points to Holmes in the 9th. Well, Pasquale did too. Okay. The second last fight was Eder Joffre, the bantamweight, against the light heavyweight Bob Foster. Pat Harker, your announcer, Jackie Box, your rank girl. Stanley Christopoulos goes to be a referee. Why him? Francisco Baez, John Grudowski, and Donald Ballas, your judges. Mark Jones, your ringside expert. Jaffa from Brazil, the Brazilian nut bombshell. From Sao Paulo, 5'4", 123. 72, 2 and 4. The WBC featherweight and then Manny bantamweight belts for Joffre. And Bob Foster from Albuquerque, 6'3", 182. 56, 8 and 1. The light heavyweight belt and all that. Called one of the greatest punchers. And Eder Joffre with the big stop on Foster. He stopped Foster by TKO. Joffre. Well, he knocked down Foster 4 times. Scorecards were kind of 2 for Joffre, 1 tie. Everybody wants on. And now here's Ali and Foreman. Ali actually competed in one of the tournaments already. So anyway, post prime, 1974. Anyway, Michael Buffer, your announcer. Of course, it'd be Michael Buffer. Holly Kisher, your ring card girl. Sam Furet, your referee. Roman Sardone, William James, and Glenn Feldman, your judges. Javier Aguirre Flores, your ringside expert. Ali, the greatest, as they call him. 6'3" and 225 pounds for this fight. Bargrave, 56 and 5, heavyweight belt. Took part on the 4th of July, knocking out Sugar Ray Robinson. Anyway, George Foreman, Big George from Marshall, by Houston, 6'3" and 260 pounds. Biography, 76 and 5, BigGeorge.com. Yeah, a lot of those heavyweight belts. But we're going to show you the bout in its entirety. Here we go.
Two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The judges' votes are in, and here, ladies and gentlemen, is your winner.
Muhammad Ali in the 7th round. Beat him. Well, it was 8 rounds in Zaire. Punches. Foreman had the best punching accuracy, but Ali knocked him down twice. The judges, well, Feldman had him 60-55. The other two had 59-56, turned into James. So Foreman won the 6th round, but I think he must try to make a comeback. But no, that's what happens. So everyone in the red corner except for Kanto won their matches, and Kanto basically drew. So that's that. So that is that. We'll exit because we have to save, and here we go. So now comes the Legends of Boxing one. Ali versus Foreman. So it has autoplay to delete 100, 1000. So we're going to play. give Foreman it. So let's see. What would happen in 1,000 fights between Ali and Foreman? I want to see. How do you do that? I just want to see. Maybe I see too much. 942 to 37 with 16 ties. Oh, okay. So Ali would have had a 94% chance of winning. Okay, then. Yeah, Foreman. Yeah, 566 by TKO. Okay, good to know. Good to know. So yeah, so Ali would have had Foreman's number. But anyway, rest in peace, Big George. You'll be missed. Anyhow, I'm gonna do.